I've lost more hours to tweaking than to doing. It's late again. My apartment is quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the occasional car groaning down the street outside. The glow of my laptop screen spills across the room, turning everything else into shadow. My phone is face down beside me, buzzing every so often with reminders I've ignored. Draft due, client follow-up, call mom. Each vibration makes me flinch, but I don't flip it over. I can't. The weight of unfinished tasks feels heavier than the phone itself. On the screen in front of me, 5 different drafts of the same email are open. 5 versions, all circling the same message, each one tweaked and polished until the words blur together. I read one draft, then another, comparing them line by line as if a single misplaced word could unravel my entire career. My eyes sting from staring too long, but I can't bring myself to close the laptop. Not yet, not until it feels perfect. The clock on the wall ticks steadily, a rhythm that grows louder the longer I sit here. Tick, tick, tick. Each sound feels like an accusation. You're wasting time. You're falling behind. You're still not done. My shoulders ache from leaning forward, my neck stiff from craning toward the screen. I run a hand through my hair and catch the tangles between my fingers. My jaw feels tight. I've been clenching it without realizing. My whole body feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the moment when everything finally feels flawless enough to release. But that moment never comes. Anxiety swells in my chest like an invisible weight. I scroll through the drafts again, adding a comma here, deleting one there. I swap a sentence, then swap it back. The changes are so small, they're almost meaningless, but each one feels urgent in the moment, as if perfection lies just beyond the next adjustment. I whisper to myself, just one more check, just one more pass. But deep down, I know the truth. There will always be one more. Perfectionism doesn't just drain my time. It drains my energy, my trust, my sense of enough. It's like being trapped in a cage I built myself. The bars aren't metal. They're fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being taken seriously if I let anything less than flawless slip through. And in this silence, with my laptop glowing and my phone buzzing and the clock ticking, that fear grows until it fills the whole room. I know I'm not the only one who's been here. Maybe you've sat at your desk, rewriting the same sentence for hours. Maybe you've missed sleep over a presentation that was already good enough. Maybe you felt the panic of a deadline racing toward you while you convince yourself, not yet, not yet, not yet. That's the trap I'm in tonight. And as much as I want to believe perfection will save me, the truth is, it's slowly breaking me. I thought if I fixed every tiny flaw, I'd finally feel safe. That's the promise perfectionism whispers. If you polish enough, you'll be untouchable. No one will be able to criticize you. No one will find fault. You'll be safe. But the reality is different. Instead of safety, I find paralysis. I see it most clearly at work. Every client proposal feels like a test. Every listing description feels like an exam. Every presentation feels like a performance where one slip will prove I'm unworthy of the role I've fought to build. So I over-prepare. I write, rewrite, revise, and then revise again. I keep circling the same sentences, waiting for the moment they shine so brightly they can't be questioned. But that moment never arrives. What does arrive is exhaustion, missed deadlines, a sick feeling in my stomach when I realize I've spent hours, even days, perfecting details no one else will notice. The root of it is fear. Fear of judgment, from colleagues who already have more experience, from clients who trust me to deliver, from bosses who I imagine are waiting for me to slip. If I make everything flawless, maybe I'll outrun that judgment. But perfectionism doesn't stop judgment. It just delays action. I notice it in smaller ways too. I'll rewrite a text 3 times before sending it, as if the tone of a single emoji might make someone think less of me. I'll scroll through photos on my phone, editing them again and again, until I give up and post nothing. I'll delay answering emails because I want every word to be polished. And by the time I finally send them, I'm already late. Do you do this too? Do you keep tweaking forever, even when you know you're stalling? Do you watch deadlines slip past while you wait for something that feels perfect? If you do, then you know how heavy it gets. The scattered papers, the half-finished projects, the way you can sit surrounded by work but feel like you've achieved nothing. That's what my apartment looks like right now. Drafts covering the floor like fallen leaves. My laptop littered with open tabs. My phone buzzing with reminders I can't face. The mess outside mirrors the mess in my head. And still, the thought loop plays. Not good enough, not yet, not good enough, not yet. Perfectionism tricks me into believing that endless revision equals progress. But it's not progress. It's stalling. It's fear in disguise. And the longer I live in that loop, the more I start to believe the cruelest lie of all, that nothing I do will ever be enough. That's where perfectionism leads. Not to safety, not to freedom, but to paralysis, to hours lost, to life slipping by while I chase a flawless finish line that doesn't even exist. And tonight, I can feel the weight of that truth pressing down on me. The breaking point wasn't dramatic to anyone else, but to me, it felt like the floor gave way beneath me. I missed a deadline. Not because I didn't care, not because I was lazy, but because I kept circling the same project, chasing a perfection that refused to arrive. I had polished the proposal until my eyes blurred, rewritten sections until I didn't even know what I believed anymore. I told myself, just one more pass, and then another, and then another. By the time I was finally ready to hit send, it was already too late. The client had moved on. The opportunity had closed. My work, all those endless hours of tweaking, sat unopened in my drafts. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, papers scattered around me like debris from a storm, drafts I had printed and crossed out, notes I had scribbled and abandoned. My laptop glowed on the desk, tabs and documents open, mocking me with their unfinished sentences. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. With every second, my chest tightened. Each tick was a reminder. You failed. You wasted time. You weren't enough. I pressed my hands against my face, fingers tangling in my hair, pulling just slightly because the frustration had nowhere else to go. My whole body felt knotted. My stomach churned. My throat ached from holding back tears I didn't even want to admit were there. The thought loop was merciless. Not good enough. Not yet. Not ever enough. I kept replaying the same question. What if nothing I do will ever be enough? And in that moment, I believed it. I believed I was broken in some essential way, doomed to never cross the finish line. All the effort I put in, all the long nights and careful edits, suddenly felt pointless. Because what good is work that never makes it out into the world? I wanted to close the laptop, sweep the papers into the trash, crawl into bed, and disappear under the weight of failure. My body screamed for escape. My mind whispered cruelly, "See, you ruin everything when it's not perfect. You should have known better." Perfectionism had promised me safety. Safety from judgment, from rejection, from shame. But what it delivered was paralysis. Shame came anyway, only heavier, because now it carried the sting of lost chances. And sitting there, head in my hands, hair tangled in my fingers, the low hum of the fridge in the kitchen, the only sound besides the ticking clock, I felt the lowest I had felt in a long time. But even in that collapse, some small part of me, quiet but stubborn, whispered, "You can't stay here forever." I didn't climb out of perfectionism all at once. I didn't wake up cured. The shift happened in a single, shaky act of defiance. I sat back down at my desk, pulled up the proposal one more time, and before I could talk myself out of it, I pressed send. My heart pounded in my chest as the email whooshed out of my inbox. My hands trembled. My breath caught in my throat. It felt reckless, like I had just jumped into icy water without knowing how deep it was. But it also felt like freedom. In that instant, I realized something I had been too afraid to believe. Done is better than perfect. The words spilled out of me like a confession. At first, I whispered them, barely audible. Done is better than perfect. Then I said them again, slower this time, calmer, letting the truth sink into my chest. Done is better than perfect. And then I said them louder, almost daring the room to argue. Done is better than perfect. Something inside me loosened. My shoulders dropped, my jaw unclenched. The knot in my stomach eased just a little. The clock on the wall still ticked, but it didn't sound like an accusation anymore. It sounded like rhythm, a reminder that life moves forward, whether or not I polish every corner of it. I thought about the ocean, the way the tide rolls in and out, never flawless, never the same, never under control, and yet always beautiful, always alive. That's what progress is like. Steady, imperfect, alive. Perfectionism had convinced me that only flawless work mattered, but pressing send showed me the truth. Progress matters more than polish. The shift didn't erase my fear. I still worried the email wasn't good enough. I still imagined criticism waiting for me. But I had proof now. Proof that finishing carried me forward in a way endless editing never could. Done had a power that perfect would never reach. And from that moment on, I began practicing a new mantra, hesitant at first, then calmer, then bold. Done is better than perfect. And every time I say it, I feel the cage loosen a little more. When I pressed send that night, my hands were still shaking. My heart still raced. My brain still tried to convince me I'd made a mistake. But something in me shifted. For the first time in a long time, I finished. It wasn't flawless. It wasn't polished the way I wanted it to be. But it was done. And done carried me forward in a way perfection never had. I sat back in my chair, staring at the email confirmation on my screen. My body didn't immediately relax. Years of perfectionism don't dissolve with one click. But I felt a different kind of relief. A relief that came from release. The cage had opened, even just a crack. I whispered it to myself again. Done is better than perfect. The words felt foreign on my tongue, like they belonged to someone braver than me. But the longer I repeated them, the more they began to feel like mine. That shift changed the way I saw everything. At work, I began sending projects after 2 drafts instead of 10. I caught myself when I was slipping into endless revision and reminded myself that progress matters more than polish. I started meeting deadlines, not because my work was flawless, but because I allowed myself to finish. At home, I began letting go of small things too. I left the dishes in the sink overnight instead of scrubbing them until midnight. I journaled even when my sentences were messy. I cooked simple meals without obsessing over presentation. Each choice whispered, "Enough is enough." And inside myself, I started to trust that completion was courage, that sending something imperfect wasn't failure. It was proof of progress. To make it real, I gave myself an anchor. I found a smooth stone on a walk one morning and brought it home. Now it sits on my desk. Every time I finish something, no matter how small, I pick up that stone, feel its weight in my hand, and say out loud, "This is enough." The stone is cool and solid, imperfect and ordinary, but real. Its weight reminds me that my progress is real too. Sometimes I still feel the old urge to keep tweaking, to keep circling, to keep waiting for perfect. But when I hold that stone, I remember progress is enough. Each step I finish carries me forward. I think that's the heart of this shift. Perfectionism promised me safety, but all it gave me was paralysis. Completion gives me freedom, and freedom doesn't come from flawless. It comes from finished. So now, when I look at the scattered papers on my floor, I don't see failure. I see steps, each one a part of the process, each one carrying me closer to done. And that's the win that matters. I don't need perfect to move forward, only enough to begin. That's the truth I'm ending this day with. Not the weight of unfinished drafts, not the fear of judgment, just the steady relief of progress. I've spent so many nights trapped in the belief that if I wasn't flawless, I would ruin everything. Tonight, I know better. Tonight I know that done carries me further than perfect ever will. Even finishing this reflection is proof. I could have kept revising it, circling the same sentences until sunrise. But instead, I chose release, and that choice carries me forward. So here's what I'm doing this week: choosing one task to finish without overthinking. Just one thing I'll release, even if it isn't flawless. I'll write it down, I'll let it be enough. And if you feel like trying it too, maybe your progress will remind someone else they can move forward as they are. As I close my laptop, the sun is setting over the bay. The water ripples unevenly, imperfect and alive. The colors shift across the surface: orange, pink, violet, blending in ways that don't follow rules, but still create something breathtaking. That's what I want to remember. Life isn't polished, it's lived. And for tonight, this is enough. The stone in my hand, the sunset on the water, the words I've finally released. Done is better than perfect. And tonight, I believe it.